All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 3 of Coffee Talks. Today we have Mark Nassar, a really good friend of mine, childhood friend actually. How many years has it been?
It's been a while. Probably a good. I think it's been 15 years.
15 years? Yeah.
That's crazy.
I probably like longest friendship here. Went from high school to college to adulthood. So yeah, and he's a product engineer at a biotech company.
Yes.
So he's here to share some wealth, some golden nuggets about his career, his aspirations, and what he's learned so far. And hopefully this helps some of you guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on here.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be here and share some knowledge with you guys.
So let's talk. So yeah, what is your current role? So you were
Currently I'm a product engineer for a biotech company. It's called Repligen.
okay.
And what my company does is we manufacture chromatography systems.
Okay.
And these systems are used in the making of pharmaceutical medicine, like gene therapy. So we sell a lot of equipment to these big pharmaceutical companies like Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, like Amgen.
So would you consider this company, it's actually making the product itself? Or is it like making parts of a product?
No, so like this company, they just make the equipment, like the hardware.
The hardware to make the
like
product?
the system, yeah, they make the system. And
so what, like give us an example. Like so, you had mentioned, what was the word that you had mentioned?
Yeah, so like
chromatography.
So like for example, to make, every drug starts with either like, protein or, usually it's protein or DNA. So these systems essentially purify protein and DNA to make the target drug.
Got it.
So that's what the system is essentially for.
Okay, this system is used to make the drugs.
Right. Yes.
Pharmaceutical drugs.
And also a lot of the systems are also used in like the medical spa industry as well. Like for example, like Botox. To make Botox, some of these systems are used in the industry like to concentrate to that final Botox form, and then you use that to everyone uses it to inject Botox.
Interesting.
So that's also there's various different uses for the product. I recently learned too that we've also sold our systems to like food manufacturing too, like Heinz or stuff like that. So there's a lot of applicable uses to it. But the largest industry it's used for right now is the biotech industry, pharmaceuticals.
So you're a product engineer there, and I'm assuming you own this product of like chromatography. That's your product, or is a portion of that?
Yeah, so essentially, like what a product engineer pretty much is, like they're supporting the product. So the product we're supporting is the system, the hardware and the software. Okay. So essentially what I'm doing is we're making sure first there's a lot of troubleshooting. Like let's say we're dealing with the field engineers, the engineers that go out in the field and install these systems.
Wait, so like before we continue on that, so for the viewers out there, so there's within product engineering, right? So like you have like a product engineer might be working on a product like a phone itself, but majority of the times they're on a subsystem of a product, correct?
Right.
Like for example, you said just the hardware and the software.
Yeah.
Right. The other parts of the product itself could be someone else.
Yeah. Right. So for example, like me and my team, like we focus more on just the hardware, and then we have like a software team that focuses more on the software.
Right.
They're also product engineers, but they're more just software focused.
Cool. Yeah. So like a part of a product is what you end up focusing on.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So as you were saying.
Yeah. So essentially, what I'm doing is we're supporting the hardware side of it. So let's say we have our field engineers who go out in the fields, they install these systems to the customers, and let's say they run into issues. So they'll get in contact with us, we'll help them troubleshoot, problem solve. We're also in charge of just making sure everything's very, very smooth in terms of installations, and let's say when they perform preventive maintenances, which means like when there's routine inspection done on the systems to make sure everything's going right. So we just make sure they have all their calibrated equipment ready to go. any tools they need, any documentation they need. We're kind of the professionals of the product. So they come to us.
So this is like a product goes out to a customer, and during installation, during any like troubleshooting,
right,
you're there to support.
Yeah. So if you think about it, like essentially the product engineer is the subject matter expert of the system or the product.
Yeah.
So any questions or assistance, they come to us for that.
And what is like a day-to-day look like for a product engineer?
Yeah, okay, so basically day-to-day would be like, okay, for example, a lot of it is meetings, a lot of engineering meetings with other engineering teams, just more a lot of coordination, like what kind of installs are coming up, what kind of preventive maintenances are coming up, so we're ready to see if there's any spare parts we have to order, any calibrating equipment we need. It involves a lot of like a day-to-day would be like we have a lot of documentation writing we have to do. So like SOPs or standard operating procedures for new equipment that's coming up. A lot of what else do we do? Like preventive maintenances, PMs like forms and documents.
Do you feel like your days like filled with primarily like documentation and engineering, or do you feel like you do like more documentation, or do you feel like you do some troubleshooting, some problem solving, or is it a bit of both?
Yeah, I would say it's honestly a bit of both. It's kind of split. A lot of it, and that's actually one thing I didn't really realize going to product engineering. It's like there's actually a lot of writing that needs to be done because you have to behind all this like troubleshooting and installations and support. There's a lot of technical documents that go behind all this. And who writes that is like the product engineers. They have to write all these documents and you have to validate it. So it's a lot of it is technical writing. And then when it comes to troubleshooting, we're the subject matter experts. So we're always on the phone or with meetings with customers and other engineers to help troubleshoot, solve problems. And from those problems that would be fine. Usually a lot of it goes back into R&D or.
So like the problems that you find.
Kisses.
Puppies. Hey, come on. Off. Okay, let's go. Not gonna go off. All right. Okay. So from the problems that you find, right? It goes back into R&D to update and fix.
Yeah, and that way it's also a way to like continually improve the product.
Yeah.
And have a better customer experience. So we're always making sure like, okay, how can we always improve the product? Always get a better version of it. Stay ahead of the competitors.
Yeah. And how does what type of like other departments or like areas do you like deal with, right? Like obviously from what you're saying, like R&D, design engineering, customers, are there other areas of organization that you might deal with?
Yeah, a lot of it is more, we deal with mostly R&D, and then I'd say also probably manufacturing, and kind of sales, because with sales, for example, is like they sell the product to the customer. A lot of times customers have more questions or need more training, so that's where we come in as well. But also part of my job as well is also training. Okay. So we also
training the customers or training the
both. So we actually
other
part of it is training the field engineers who go and install the equipment or perform these inspections of equipment. Also part of it is also training the customer too. So like when we go in and do these installs, these after that's done, customers go through a training of how to use the equipment, maybe any basic troubleshooting that they may encounter. So yeah.
Okay. So I realized we didn't really talk about how you got into this at all.
Yeah.
So maybe you can shed some light as to like how you got into your major, what your major was at school.
Yeah.
And then let's start there.
So first, when I first got into college, I had no idea what I wanted to do.
So like you didn't think this was what you were gonna do?
No, I had no idea. Like I got in college. What happened is I wanted to become a doctor originally. I wanted to become a doctor, go to medical school, and go that route. And also, I feel like because I was always interested in the medicine and medical field growing up, but also I was kind of raised in that area too. I have a lot of family friends. My dad was going to become a doctor. Yeah. So I guess I'm like, okay, I'll be a doctor too. Yeah. But when I started college, my first year, I quickly realized I'm like, do I really want to become a doctor? Because I know that to become a doctor, you have to go through 8 to 12 years of another schooling, and it's just I don't think it was more
daunting. It's daunting.
Yeah, it is. It's very overwhelming.
Yeah. And
so I was still interested in the medical fields, but then I also came across, I was doing research on just different majors you can do, and bioengineering came up. And I was like, oh, this seems interesting. Kind of what kind of field is this? And I looked it up, and I was like, oh, you're incorporating, technology and medicine and trying to see how you can make advances and incorporate the two fields together. Like, this seems like something I'd be interested in. So, I just jumped into it, and it was interesting. I found it very interesting, and I was like, okay, what can I possibly do in this field? And I was looking into, okay, I can become maybe a design engineer, I can be product engineering, I can become a field engineer.
Also, when that major had come out, this was back in 2011, right?
Yeah.
It was still very new.
Yeah, it was still very new. It was just I don't know, maybe a few years old or
even at our school, it wasn't something that everybody was doing. It had just started.
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't know what to expect, and so I just stuck through it, and my plan was okay. If I don't like this field, I can always go back into the medical field because the curriculum was the same.
Yeah, just some engineering classes, and then
exactly. So that's what I did. And I realized, okay, this is also a good field because engineering is a really good field just in regards of making finances, and you're always almost guaranteed a job because it's always in demand, and it's easy to find a job in the market. It's like an evergreen field.
Yeah.
So that's another reason why I chose it.
Do you feel like if you were to, so let's say that knowing that you're in this product engineering field, right? Knowing that you enjoy this field. Yeah. If you were to go back, would you say biomedical engineering is the right degree to end up in a role like this?
Yeah, I would. I mean, I think I don't know, what I really realized is after going through all these jobs in engineering, a lot of times you don't even need really a bioengineering degree. Yeah. It's more.
Is it more about the knowledge, or is it more about how much you learn?
Yeah, it's more about your experience, Yeah. It's relevant experience. That's what I think counts the most. It's not more of your degree. I mean, a lot of these companies want an engineering degree, but what weighs more heavily is your just relevant experience.
So you probably need the engineering degree for the first 1 or 2 jobs.
Yeah, to get your foot in the door.
And let's say that maybe I did a biology degree or a chemistry degree. How would I is there a way that you think I could enter into the biomedical engineering? Is there a way that somebody could start somewhere and somehow end up in that role?
Yeah, I think maybe the best way for that would probably if you're able to get an internship that's kind of relevant to what you'll be doing, that'll probably be the best way to do it. But I feel like nowadays, as well as there's so many certifications that you can do online, or small little online courses that could also help. For example, a lot of engineering jobs want people who are certified in Six Sigma or have SolidWorks certification. So these are all things that could be done on your own
on the side and
online.
Bolster your resume a little bit. Okay.
Yeah.
And then so you did this. You graduated. Did you do any research or anything like that during this time that may help your career, you think?
Yeah, I mean, initially I did have a research a position in the college. I was working for one of the professors at the time.
Yeah.
Helping them with research. So that kind of gave me some experience in helping land my first job, which I was kind of just working in a lab, kind of purifying protein and DNA, and which is in some ways a little similar to what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
Similar, same fields.
Yeah.
So that kind of helped out. But I think one thing I wish I was more aggressive with doing back then was getting internships.
Yeah. I'll kind of push on that because I wish I did the same thing. But back in 2011, internships were very difficult to come by.
That's true. Yeah.
Versus now, it seems like there's a lot of internships available. I think even I did a couple internships and I had to effectively do them for free.
Yeah.
Now everybody pays, right?
Yeah, they're definitely a lot more abundant. Literally my brother got an internship and he was gonna pay $35 an hour or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
So
it's a full-time income.
Yeah. And I don't think that was back then, right?
I think back then it was harder, but you could still get an internship. It was just the opportunity was less.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So you think internships would for sure help?
Yeah, I think so. If internships will help, any way you're able to get your foot in the door somehow, is gonna help tremendously because. I didn't get to this field right off the bat. I had to jump through 4 different jobs before this.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, right? So you did your biomedical engineering, and then how did you end up in this role? What steps did you have to take? So maybe show your career path, right?
Yeah, so what happened is because of the research position I had in college, my first job out of college was working in a lab. I was kind of a manufacturing assistant.
Yeah.
Pretty much working on a lab bench, helping to purify protein and DNA, doing these production runs and analyzing these results. And then from there, I didn't like that because I didn't see myself working on a lab bench.
Yeah.
I found it very just boring and the same work over and over again. From there, I was able to get a job at Amgen, which is a pretty big pharmaceutical company, as a contract worker. And contract roles are usually a lot easier to get than full-time roles.
Why is that?
Just companies, well, first of all, you're not working directly for the company, you're working for a third-party contract. So they're just all less competitive because there's less risk for the company.
Yeah, they could.
You're not getting,
at will job, right?
At will. They're not giving you benefits, so it's not that big of a deal for them. So at the time, I did that for a year, and that was a lot more engineering focused. I was actually, doing a lot more technical writing. I was writing standard operating procedures, doing a lot more statistical analysis using Minitab and Excel.
Oh, bless you.
Presenting to people, leading a group of engineers.
Yeah.
But I did that for a year, and then from there, I got laid off because at the time there was a lot of budget cuts.
Yeah.
So the first people to go were the contract workers.
Yeah.
So I left, and then I got into field engineering for a medical device company, where I was at the forefront. I would go install these patient imaging systems at the customer site, which were hospitals, and I would help do troubleshooting. I'll train the customers. Every time that it's an equipment broke or something broke, I'd go replace it.
So it's almost similar to what you do right now, but it's more on the manual side. Yeah,
it's right now, what's the difference between my last job and this? The field engineer is more on the forefront of the customer. They're directly working with the customer, and they're just hands-on. And where a product engineer is a bit more in the back end. Yeah. Where we're kind of just in the back, and we're not really in the forefront working with the customer face to face. Yeah. So the nice thing about a product engineer compared to field engineer is 1, you're not traveling as much, and 2, you're not directly working with the customer face to face. So if you don't talking to a lot of people, especially the customer, and traveling a lot and being too hands-on, then the field engineer is not really for you. Yeah, so I've known you for a long time, so I kind of know some of the reasons why you didn't like it, right? So why did you share some of the reasons?
that you moved away from field engineer to like a product engineer?
Yeah, I mean, well, the biggest thing was just traveling.
Yeah.
That was the biggest thing.
Like how often were you traveling?
Because, yeah, at the time I was traveling about 80% of my time. So, like, a lot of the times, so I would go maybe like, at times I'd travel every week. Like, I'd travel maybe for like 3 days, I'd come back home, I'll be home for, you know, the weekends, and then I'll have to leave the next week. So, it was very hard to just balance work and life. Like, I didn't really have a social life. That was hard. And also, when you're at the customer site, issues happen a lot. So a lot of the times, maybe if it's a simple issue that might take like a few hours, you end up being there till like, you know, way past, you know, business hours. You're there till like maybe 10 p.m., 11 p.m. at night.
And it's almost critical that these units are back up, right? Because they're like in health industry. And
yeah, exactly. I mean, they have like patient testing that needs to be done.
Yeah.
Like these are cancer patients. You know? Like they need very
that.
prompt radiation treatment done. And so, and also dealing with doctors. So like doctors have these huge egos themselves. And like sometimes it's hard dealing with them.
Yeah.
So you also have to like, you know, be very patient and be good at just like talking and resolving conflicts.
Yeah. So, but I think in the beginning it was kind of fun to travel, but then it got like a little too much on traveling just because you didn't have like.
Yeah. I think traveling is nice for a job. It's it's nice because it changes your scenery.
Yeah.
Because in a regular job, you're always just used to going the same thing over and over again every day, the same office, the same environment. But traveling is nice. It's just an issue when it comes to like it starts affecting, you know, that work and life. Like it's hard to balance both.
Yeah.
And you're always traveling.
What do you think like with that job, right? Like, what do you think you learned about yourself to like, you know? I feel like every job. You learned something about yourself that you didn't know. What was one thing that maybe you learned about that in that job? I guess besides not liking traveling.
I think one is like I just enjoyed. First, I realized like I'm not extroverted at all.
You're not what?
Extroverted.
Oh, extroverted.
Yeah, I don't like because with a field engineer you have to like you just have to talk a lot and like be social and. Because you're the representing the company. Like the customer associates you with like the company, right? They think of like let's say Amgen, they think of the field engineer. So I didn't like that's one thing I noticed about myself, and another thing I feel like I needed just like a home base. Like just somewhere where I can just you know go back, relax.
Yeah. So for you viewers out there, if you are not extroverted and want a home base, field engineering, traveling jobs are not for you.
Also, I realized that also a lot of field engineers don't get paid that well. Too. Like also, I've noticed like they do a lot of work. They do so much work, and sometimes they're working like 60 to 80 hours a week. But they're probably one of the engineers that get paid like probably the least.
Wow, interesting. Now you know one thing that when we're in college we're not really thinking about, like we think about, you know, maybe this is the role I want to go to, or this is where I want to be. Yeah. But I think one thing that we don't think about is like how does that role fit in with our personality, right? Like as a person, who you are and what that personality is and what role you're seeking. Right? Like for example, hey, oh, come on. Like for example, like if I am extroverted, being a design engineer might not be.
Yeah, that's true.
Might not be my thing, right? Maybe like, might not be my thing, but maybe like customer facing or sales engineering might be, just because I'm a little bit more extroverted in this field, right? Like more customer oriented and like of sorts. Yeah, so I think that's something that most people don't really think about when having, like, I certainly did.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I didn't think about it either. Like, you don't know until you actually, you know, get involved in that environment and doing the actual job. Yeah, one thing I realized too is like, once a lot of these jobs are incorporating like working from home, like remote, I realized like that's something I really enjoy too.
You enjoy it, so you enjoy the work from home.
Yeah, because my job right now is pretty much remote.
Yeah. So do you ever miss like going to work?
Oh, no. I don't. I mean, the big disadvantage of working from home is like it's hard to make like good connections.
Yeah.
Because everything's virtual.
Well, it also ties into your personality of being introverted.
Yeah, which is
right?
fine.
Which is okay. Like if that's,
I mean, because I look at a job as a job. I'm looking here to like make friends and make friendships and whatever. It's like
you're there, you're there to 9 to 5.
Yeah, exactly.
The
nice thing about working from home too is like you feel like in a ways your own business because you're just kind of have your own schedule. Kind of you just. It's a lot more. You're not commuting in traffic. It's very you can go to the gym when you want. It's nice. It's a lot more. You have a lot more flexibility.
Yeah. So what maybe like we can talk about what recommendations.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, before we talk about recommendations, what do you aspire to do in this career? Like where do you see yourself going, given like what you've learned and your personality and.
Yeah. I mean, I would like to, now that I'm kind of more focusing on like the product and supporting the product and becoming a subject matter expert. Now I kind of want to like switch to going even more in the background and like working like on design.
Like designing of the product itself.
Yeah, become more involved with the designing of the product, like design engineer.
Yeah, that's a good segue into this topic. Right? What do you like think that let's say somebody gets into this field, follows a similar path, like.
Mm-hmm.
Like what would they need to become a design engineer at this point? Like,
yeah, well, one thing that every design engineer needs, I believe, is you just need to know be good at 3D modeling software and be certified. So SolidWorks or CAD.
Yeah.
Like you definitely need that. So that's easily attainable because you can go online and do like simple Google search and find something. So you need that, and you also just need I think product engineering is good experience because you need a good understanding of like the product. You have to understand like, okay, where can improvements be made? You need good troubleshooting skills, good problem solving skills. You have to be creative too, which I feel like engineering in general like helps you to be creative.
Yeah. Do you feel like your hands-on experience will tie in perfectly? I see. As I'm talking, it seems like these answers yes, right?
Yeah, I think so because also like because for me, for example, product engineering, like I don't really understand. Like when I first started the job, I couldn't really get a good grasp of understanding the system. And so I actually was like I had the product in front of me. I was touching it and playing with it.
Yeah.
Because it's different when you actually have it hands on.
Yeah, actually doing something out of it. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So what would you somebody that's potentially trying to go into this career, right? Like, what are some recommendations you would give them?
Yeah, so one recommendation I'd give is, one, I would say try to get an internship in the industry you're trying to get into, or like try to target some companies that you could potentially see yourself working at.
Yeah.
And try to get an internship. And the thing is, we're just talking about there's a lot more internship opportunities nowadays. A lot of companies have these like new grad programs or. That's
a big thing now, huh? Like new grad programs.
Yeah, because I noticed that Johnson & Johnson, which is a huge company, they have a lot of these like new grad programs that like they'll put you through a rotation too, which is really cool. Like they'll have you do different roles. Like R&D, like product engineering, manufacturing, and at the end of the program, you kind of have a sense of like, okay, what do I like, what I don't like. So that's actually a really cool. I wish we had the opportunity. I don't remember having the opportunity at all.
I think there was some like roles like that.
Yeah.
There's some roles like that, but I think most of the roles back then were like geared towards getting into management. Like they were all about like rotation programs to become a manager, but I think now there's a lot of emphasis on actual product knowledge and stuff like that.
Right, so that's true, but yeah, I'd say that's one. Either those like new grad programs or internships is important, and two, like I would say just talk to people, like reach out, maybe to LinkedIn of people who maybe work at some of these companies.
I'll link Mark's LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So if anybody has any questions, they can definitely reach out to Mark and set up a little coffee date with him.
Yeah, for sure. I'd be happy to like chat with people because that's one thing I wish when I was first getting into this field. I wish I had like more people I could just talk to and ask questions. Because like when you're in college or like figuring out what you want to do, you have an idea like maybe what I'll be doing, but once you actually start doing the job and get into the field, it's like completely different than what you imagine.
Yeah, and also like honestly, it's also like you don't understand, you don't know the industry, right? Like unless you're doing like ton of research, you don't know what types of companies do what, like how does a role is, like like a project engineer versus field engineer versus design engineer versus manufacturing engineer, like what are their focuses, right? And like if somebody wants to go in a certain career path, like which path they should take. Yeah. I think that's all information that you don't really know, quote unquote.
Yeah, and information is it's not even online. Like I remember at the time I was trying YouTube, like, okay, what does a bioengineer do? And there's like basic, like shitty like videos from like 2000, it's just like this is helpful. Yeah. So that's also good. That's good why you're doing this this podcast to help people out.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really good information.
Yeah, I mean, this exactly stemmed from our struggles of like not knowing what to do, right? Like, I mean, I ended up in the aerospace industry, not really knowing what I was doing. It was just like I wanted a mechanical engineering job, so picked the second one I got. The first one was actually pharma, and I didn't end up going there. But yeah, so like I think hopefully this podcast helps some people. If not, at least it's valid. It's kills some time watching us try to get pet Nala so she can let us do this podcast. She requires a lot of attention.
But yeah, same thing with my brother too. I remember like the only reason he decided to go do bioengineering too at the time is because like you just copied me and was like, oh, Mark's doing bioengineering, so
that's kind of.
I guess I'll just do that too.
That kind of runs in the family, right? It's like
no, it does though.
I mean, even within friends, right? We all were in engineering.
It's true.
And we all said if we didn't make engineering, we would go to econ.
Yeah. Well, also, like if you think about it too, it's like why do you think like a lot of people I know they just become doctors, right?
Yeah.
Or like,
I mean, that's probably
they become lawyers or engineers because like so my dad's a doctor or my cousin's a doctor. Like I'll just be a doctor too.
Yeah.
The thing is like if
you don't know the true reason why
they don't know, they're just doing it because like this is familiar to them.
Yeah.
So they just go into it without knowing exactly like okay, do I really want to do that or not?
Yeah. And I think like knowing the day to day, knowing what life is like, I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
So.
But also one thing on that too is like one thing I didn't realize like in engineering that I was expecting is like just how much writing is involved.
Yeah.
You just have to.
That's a good point.
There's so much writing involved that you have to like technical writing that you have to do.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Because when you envision engineering, you're like, oh, I'm going to be solving all these problems.
Yeah.
But every problem that you solve probably requires a document that you need to write.
That's a problem.
So that you can train somebody, right? And then like, so that doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
Right? So like, I feel like it's almost 1-to-1 of like hours spent.
I know. When I first got into engineering, I was like, okay, I'll probably be like solving problems. I'll be drawing shit out, like doing some math, solving some math equations. Like it's none of that.
Yeah.
A lot of it is just.
Well, at least not at our level, right?
Yeah,
like not at the level of maybe like PhD and stuff like that. Yeah. Like that could be of that sort. But yeah.
But yeah, it's different than what you expect, and I'd also say is like if you don't know what you want to do, that's fine. Because I didn't really know what I wanted to do either. I didn't know what I wanted to do until like my third job.
Yeah.
I was like I just so confused, and it's fine to like bounce around a little bit, figure out like okay, do I like doing this or not?
Yeah. Well, what's your like take on like so there's a lot of people that say hey you should stay at a company for a long time. Like for me, like I stayed at my first job for like almost 8 years, a little over 8 years. Like, what is your take on, 10 years staying at a company for long? Like,
I think in the beginning when you're first developing your career, I think you should bounce around a little bit. And say bounce around. I'm not saying like you leave it like every 3 months, but it's like, after a year and a half, 2 years, you should start maybe like looking for other opportunities, seeing like what else is out there.
Yeah.
Because like first of all, you're always gonna make your most amount of like salary bump, jumping between companies,
I can second that.
Yeah, and until it's like there's so much opportunity out there, especially in engineering. It's like, why wouldn't you look for the opportunity?
The other thing also is like, what you learn at one company for 2 years.
It's different.
Different than what you learn at another company, and that total knowledge over a span of like 6 years could be massive, right? Versus somebody that's only worked at like one company and only knows one thing.
I would say though, it's like the most important is like making sure you're developing a skill set. So like for me, for example, I've had like 4 different jobs at different companies. In each job, I've developed a different skill set. But the problem is like at some times on an interview, there's some companies that will tell me, oh, like you have good pharmaceutical experience doing this, but you don't do that for a year. We want someone who's done it for at least 4 to 5 years. Yeah. It's like, oh, you have good technical writing experience, but you're only this company doing this for 6 months. Yeah. So it's important to like if you could also just specialize in one area. Let's say like I'm really good at like SolidWorks or technical writing. So that's something like that's your strength, and people would.
You can market that.
Yeah, you can put that on a resume, and that's like something that companies would like really like. The advantage over other people.
That's a good point too. Like making figuring out what your strong suit is and like diving into it, right?
Yeah.
And that also helps. And I've kind of found out like from doing my career, it's like what I thought I liked is not what I enjoy.
Yeah.
I completely enjoy something different.
Yeah, and that's fine. It's like it comes to like just experiencing that and figuring out what you like and what you don't like. Also, one thing I remember doing, what I started doing maybe like 2 years ago, is I'm like, okay, what are these like all these companies and engineers? What are like kind of their top few skills or qualities that they're looking for? A lot of them are like, okay, they want someone like good at technical writing. They want someone who's like has quality and validation experience. They want someone who maybe has a little bit of like SolidWorks experience and is good at troubleshooting. So I started saying, okay, how can I attain those skills and qualities to further strengthen myself as a candidate going forward. So it's important too, just looking at like what kind of crosses over between all these companies and these roles to make yourself the strongest candidate as possible.
Man, no, those are all pretty good points. Yeah.
Yeah, so go out there and get your money,
Yeah, get like Mark said, get your money, get the bag.
Yeah.
Get the bag. Well,
I also want to add too is like it's important to chase your passion, go after your passion, but also you have to keep in mind, your money and your salary potential, because that's also really important. I feel like sometimes people will either just chase their passion and forget about the salary potential, or just like go after money and just like hate what they do.
Yeah.
So it's important to have a good balance of both. And you can always, change or switch down the road.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that most people are so worried about, right? It's like, if you don't like your job, switch it. Like, don't waste time. Don't waste time doing it, because there's, you're just literally doing something that you don't love. And the other thing is you're just wasting time in general.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're and if you don't like it, you're probably not putting 100% effort into it, and your earning potential is low, right? But yeah, 100% agree with that. And if you're as persistent as Nala, you will succeed in getting.
Yeah, that's actually a really good thing to learn. Is like persistency will get you what you want.
Yeah.
Like if like Nala's been bugging the fuck out of us for the past hour. And look, she got what she wanted. She's sitting between us, getting pet.
Yeah, that's literally what she's wanting. We've tried to not have her sit on the couch. She whined and whined until she got onto the couch.
So apply that to your career.
Yeah, apply that to your career. Whine and whine until you get it. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. But yeah, I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, go to network, meet people. I've noticed a lot of people who've got a really good job just like meeting people at like networking events. Like referrals are probably still the easiest way to get into a company and like land a good job. So
I guess it comes back to it's all about who you know, huh?
yeah, it does. It really does.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you for coming and joining the show and giving Nala some pets and sharing some of your golden nugget wisdom.
Yeah, thank you to Nala and you for having me.
Yeah.
And hopefully I was able to help out.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll leave Mark's LinkedIn profile in the chat. If any of you guys want to ask him questions, take him out for some coffee and pick his brain. I don't think he'd say no.
Please, I love to.
Yeah. So other than that, take care and enjoy.